What's going on? Welcome to the draft board here on the JTFB YouTube channel. And on this episode, I will be going through my first round mock draft now that most of free agency is out the way. There's a couple big name people still out there that can make some changes and some differences. But for the most part, I feel really good about this first round mock draft that I've done about 20 times now in the last 3 days. Finally went ahead and just got it all done. So subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter. You can see my name there at the bottom of the screen at Josh Taylor FB. And let me know if you want me to do a second round following this one. So tell me how bad the pick is for your team, what you hate about it, who you wish I would have picked. But let's go ahead and get started. And I will bring over the PFN NFL mock draft simulator, who is what I use for my mock draft. Draft Network's like currently down, or you have to like pay for it or something stupid. I don't know. And then PFF, I don't really like it. Never really used PFF. So I'm going to go ahead and go through all 32 teams, but technically 31 picks because Miami wants to cheat. Sorry, Miami fans. There's really no reason for you to be watching this video, but I appreciate you tuning in anyways. So let's draft. Let's hit that button and get going on here. And there's a lot, like I said, a lot has happened the last few picks with the free agency and all the changes and everything. And honestly, I feel really good about some of these picks. But like I said, you're probably going to hate it, but let me know. So first off, obviously the Panthers trade up, get that number 1 overall pick. That's exactly what they wanted. They said recently that they feel really good about a couple quarterbacks. I believe their top 2 is CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, obviously. I don't think it's Anthony Richardson or Will Levis. But this is what I think will happen, and then also what I really want to happen. So for the first overall pick, I'm going CJ Stroud. Couple reasons why. To me, he had the best combine showing. Obviously, Bryce Young didn't throw. He'll have his pro day here soon. It's only March 20th, so it's coming up, I want to say, this week. But CJ Stroud had the best showing at the combine throwing wise. And then if you watch the tape, yeah, there's a few things he needs to work on, but overall, the body of work is there for CJ Stroud. Looks really good, clean mechanics. I think Bryce Young has that it factor, but I think CJ Stroud has the size. So if you're worried about Bryce Young's size, CJ Stroud doesn't have that concern. I think he's still a really good, safe pick. And I think he's going to be great in that system for Carolina. They're building up. Obviously, they got rid of DJ Moore. They just got Adam Thielen. So they got some picks to work with here in the draft. I'm super excited to see what they can do for it. But CJ Stroud, first overall pick. And speaking of building a team, oh my goodness, DeMeco Ryans and the Houston Texans have been building a squad. What an offseason. And then minutes ago, they just signed Dalton Schultz at tight end and Devin Singletary at running back to complement Dameon Pierce. And just what has been a great offseason. Yes, they traded Brandon Cooks to the Cowboys, but still, we know it's going to happen. He's been wanting to get out of there for a while now, whatever. So obviously, wide receivers on the board. But DeMeco Ryans being one of my favorite as an Alabama fan. I know there's a Penn State flag over there. I cover Penn State, but there's an Alabama jersey right here signed by my guy, Mack Wilson. But DeMeco Ryans being a former Alabama linebacker, being the defensive-minded guy, he knows he needs to get his quarterback of the future right here, though, and he knows his ties to Alabama. He's plugged in with Nick Saban. So you will see Bryce Young going to the Houston Texans at number 2, and they're going to build around Bryce Young. Just made Tunsil the highest paid tackle once again for the second time in his career. What has been a crazy career for Larry Tunsil. But still, Bryce Young, Houston Texans should be super excited. I know the Jags are the flashy pick right now, but man, the Texans are really building for the future right now. Love what they're doing. Obviously, the Cardinals here, they have a lot that they have to deal with. New head coach, Kyler Murray, he's hurt. They don't know when he's coming back. There's already been questions there, but you're taking the best player on defense in the entire draft. And in my opinion, he doesn't get enough credit, even as good as he is. He's the best edge rusher I've seen in the last 10 drafts, and it's not even close in my opinion. That's Will Anderson Jr. out of Alabama. It's not Alabama bias at all. This guy is a legit. He should have been in the Heisman running instead of Aiden Hutchinson 2 years ago, but nonetheless, Will Anderson, number 3 to the Arizona Cardinals, building up that D-line, and they need a legit playmaker, someone who's going to get to the quarterback, get sacks, cause turnovers, and make an impact on the game. I pray to God his career pans out there because I love Will Anderson to death. So, number 4, this is where, it gets kind of questionable. Obviously, the Colts need their quarterback. Matt Ryan's gone. They haven't had a steady quarterback since Andrew Luck retired. And they're going to go with the guy with the most upside, the exciting pick, Anthony Richardson. Obviously, has a lot to work on, in my opinion, but the upside is there. The potential is there. And I think the Colts are intrigued by that and really think that they can get the max potential out of Anthony Richardson. And I hope they do. Because if it hits good, then it's a home run. But if not, you're looking back like, wow, that number 4 overall pick, whether it's Will Levis or whoever, like maybe we should have gone after Lamar, and maybe they do. Someone said they are. I don't know. I don't know what to think about the whole Lamar situation, but in my opinion, they're getting Anthony Richardson. They're getting their own little Lamar. Excellent runner. I mean, just giant in size, though. He's not the kind of style of Lamar. Yes, his passing needs some more mechanics. He has a strong arm. His deep throw accuracy is amazing, but his short accuracy is really bad for whatever reason. Like I said, there's just a lot of things footwork wise, mechanic wise, that Anthony Richardson has to work on, and he will. So this is where it gets dicey because you see Jalen Carter here, obviously the best guy on the board yet. But with everything that's going on with his whole situation at Georgia, they've kind of reached an agreement on everything, what he's going to do. But then he shows up to his pro day almost 10 pounds over what he was at the combine. He couldn't finish his drills because he was out of shape. It's just not looking good. And obviously the Seahawks have been making some moves on the D-line. And I think they would be willing to add a guy like Jalen Carter because he is that good. But I really like what they've done this offseason, especially on the defensive line, taking a look at adding a guy like Draymond Jones from Denver, getting him paid. They bring back Jaron Reed, another Alabama guy on the line. They get Devin Bush as that right outside linebacker who can rush the quarterback. Got him from Pittsburgh. So they're building that defensive line. But what I'm really looking at is that other side of Draymond Jones and getting someone that can get to the quarterback. I don't see Pete Carroll going after Jalen Carter with everything going on. I think we will see Jalen Carter fall. I don't think he's not going to get outside the top 10 in my mock draft. So don't worry. Any Georgia fans, don't freak out. But the next best edge rusher, in my opinion, is indeed Tyree Wilson. Just has a great mixture of, he's 6'6", 276, by the way. Just really long arms, 36 inches long. He just has a great frame. He has a good mix of, length and size and speed on that edge. I think that's exactly the kind of player that the Seahawks are looking for on that other side of Draymond Jones, who can line up outside or inside, by the way. And then you have a legit pass rusher on the outside there. So edge out of Texas Tech, Tyree Wilson going to Seattle. And honestly, like looking at a lot of mock drafts, these top 5, they're pretty similar throughout. Maybe you switch up Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, but a lot of people have that same top 5. And I think that's really good. I think it's solid. I feel really good about that. And then when you start getting to this pick, which has changed drastically for me because the last month I've had them getting Devin Witherspoon because it fits Dan Campbell. Witherspoon is a straight animal, high motor. He has that it factor. He is a dog. And Campbell said, look, we've only talked to probably 10 players or whatever he said, like not many players that have that it factor at the combine. He's like, there's only about 10 players I like here. Like he was straight up about it. Like he has a criteria and Devin Witherspoon fits that criteria. But the Lions have built that secondary, especially the corner spot, and it changed the last few days. I think it was last night. I can't remember, honestly. This free agency has been so crazy. But they get Emmanuel Moseley from San Francisco. Yes, he's coming off an injury, but he's expected. It's a 1-year contract because of that injury, but still, he's really good. I expect him to start on the left side. And then obviously they have Jeff Okudah on the right side. And they get Cameron Sutton from Pittsburgh to be that nickelback. So they're in the slot. And then you also have CJ Gardner-Johnson that you just signed from Philly. Huge, huge, huge. That signing there is what got me off of the Witherspoon pick for the Lions. So this pick is wide open. This is honestly the hardest pick for me the entire mock draft because there's so much that I think they can do here. And, oh, man, there's so many times where I have picked Van Ness, I've picked. I think it's too high to take a wide receiver, but in my opinion, I think they want someone to build up, just to continue building up on that line, because they do have some concerns in the inside line, but then also outside of Aiden Hutchinson, who had a great year, by the way. They want to get some help on that line, and I think they go Myles Murphy, who's been super underrated throughout this whole process. People are forgetting how good he really is. He hasn't shown out at the combine and stuff because he's been dealing with an injury. Couldn't do anything at the pro day, but he's going to have his own pro day in April, I want to say, or maybe it's the end of March. I can't remember. But Myles Murphy, like, people are forgetting how good this guy is. And he's going to help the Lions in the run stopping, but then also getting to the quarterback at 6'5", 276. He is just a high motor guy that I think would thrive under Coach Campbell, and just be a really good complementary piece to Aiden Hutchinson. And like I said, he can really help out if, he's not on the edge. He's lined up inside a little bit just to help out that run defense if he needs to. I think he's a great pick. I feel really good about this one. There's honestly probably, you can even go Will Levis here because of the questions like what they have with Goff, like in the future, like a year or two from now. You could go Will Levis and people are like, okay, it makes sense. But for me, I'm going Myles Murphy, build up that D line because you're building up that secondary really good. You've got some young linebackers. I think they'll still get a linebacker in the draft. But Rodriguez was really good out of nowhere. I liked him at Oklahoma State. It's just Campbell has his kind of guys, his kind of team. And for me, Myles Murphy fits that mold. So then you go to the Raiders, and this is another one. I tweeted it out. Like I said, follow me at Josh Taylor FB. This is one that I've been kind of struggling with because they paid Jimmy G to be the starting quarterback, and he is the starting quarterback. There's no questions about that next year. But then you also remember, like, his contract isn't for like a long term. Like, I could see like a 1-2 year playing with Jimmy G, but they possibly have an out next season if they absolutely had to. But then you have to remember the health of Jimmy G and what that looks like. So right here, like, I keep wanting to take Paris Johnson. I keep wanting to take Peter Skronsky, the both left tackles of the future. But then I keep telling myself, like, to me, it's just Will Levis makes too much sense here. I'm not that high on Will Levis. I don't really think he's going to be like a giant step up, but you put him in that quarterback room with Jimmy G to learn from. And I think that's a phenomenal guy to learn from, by the way. And say it is next year or the year after that, you already have your quarterback of the future on the roster, kind of like what San Francisco did with Jimmy G getting Trey Lance. I know, like, they're getting them both the same year, but still, it's the same thing. You're planning for long term, and like, I could see them getting a tackle here, but like, no, we're gonna roll with Jimmy G. But if Jimmy G gets hurt again, what are you gonna do? You're in the AFC West. You at least have a guy with some kind of potential that can come in and start to win you some games, hopefully, and keep up with the Chiefs and the Chargers and the Broncos. So I think Will Levis is the smart pick here for the Raiders. And once again, the Falcons is a giant wild card. Never know what they're going to do. And I'm going to go kind of outside the bubble here. I think they need some help on the defensive line. They've been making some solid moves in free agency. I'll give it to them. The biggest thing is bringing their guys back, getting Lindstrom back, getting McGarry back, getting Johnny Smith, who I think is going to be much better than he was in New England. But really, I'm looking at that defense because you do have Grady Jarrett at nose tackle. You do get Onyemata from the Saints, another D tackle, but that outside's looking rough. I don't like. Their outside linebacker is like Lorenzo Carter. They've got Michael Walker, but then they got Taquan Graham at the DN spot. So for me, I keep going edge here, and I keep going a little outside the bubble. Someone who I think, tested really well. One of these guys that's going to get taken higher than people expected. And then a lot of people mock him in the first round. It's not like some crazy, like, hot take reach. But this guy, I think, is going to be a stud in the league, and I think he really fits Atlanta. And for me, that is Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa. And like I said, he tested super well. He's played on the inside and the outside, so he can rotate in if he has to. If, I don't know too much of the Falcons defense, but if they run any kind of 5-2 or anything like that, they have plenty of firepower to do so now. But then they also have a legit pass rusher, which they have lacked greatly on that edge spot for a while now. So for me, I kind of debated maybe they go nickelback here, like a Witherspoon, someone who can play on the inside. maybe a Brian Branch, but they do have, they got Jesse Bates, they got AJ Terrell, they got Casey Hayward from the Raiders. So for me, I'm really focusing on that line. Get to the quarterback, cause some havoc in the backfield. And then we look at the Chicago Bears. And as much as I really want to draft Jackson Smith-Njigba, I just can't do it. I care too much for Justin Fields' health. They get DJ Moore. Yes, they could do another wide receiver, but really at 9, like, you want to do that? I don't like Chase Claypool. I don't like the fit there at all. I love Mooney. I love DJ Moore. Like I said, maybe they can add another smaller kind of threat guy on the team. But for me at 9, like, I'm protecting Justin Fields' health. I'm thinking long-term, but I'm getting him another former teammate at Ohio State, Paris Johnson Jr., left tackle. Once again, that long-term foundational piece on that left side of the offensive line, because they haven't protected Justin Fields at all or given him weapons. So they got some weapons, and now they're going to build that line. And by the way, Chicago, you've got a load of picks, so don't worry. You can still get a wide receiver, even though it's not Jackson Smith-Njigba in this draft. But right here at 9, like, I'm not saying that's a reach for Jackson Smith-Njigba. It's just get your offensive line built up. Like, take care of your quarterback. And here, as a Washington fan, as much as I hate this, I think this is where Jalen Carter goes to the Eagles for 2 reasons. One, he's just too good. You lose Hargrave to the 49ers. And second, you've got his buddy Jordan Davis there, played with him at Georgia. If this guy does have any kind of troubles, you want to surround him with good people. Surround him with Jordan Davis, his, ex-teammate, great friend of his. And it's a need now, but it's also the best player on the board. So I'm taking Jalen Carter. I'm surrounding him with Jordan Davis again. He's filling in that hole that Hargrave leaves. Like I said, he went to the 49ers. And they're right back. They keep both corners that they really wanted with Bradbury and Slay. And now they're rebuilding that defensive line, which is just scary to me. Some people have Bijan Robinson going here. I just don't see it. I don't see them taking Bijan that high with Carter on the board. If Carter goes to like the Falcons or something like that, then yes. But for me, I don't see Carter going in that top 10 outside of the Eagles. So for me, I'm going at the Eagles at 10. And then number 11, a team that really needs to build up the offensive line. Obviously, Ben's gone at center. Lawan's gone at left tackle. So I'm taking the next best left tackle on my board. It might not be on PFN's, but Peter Skoronski, a guy that can shift into guard if you have to. A guy that has arm length concerns to some teams, but he has been the most consistent, the most dominant left tackle and just offensive lineman, honestly, in college football the last few years. This is a guy who is worth a top 10 pick. And some could argue that he's better than Paris Johnson Jr. He's tackle 1 on a lot of people's boards. But for me, fit-wise, I really like Paris Johnson Jr. in Chicago, and I really like Skoronski just looks like a guy who belongs in the Titans jersey. And then 12, the Texans are back on the board. And I'm going to go back to a guy, Jackson Smith-Njigba here, because you're adding those weapons, but you did lose Brandon Cooks. So you have Bryce Young. You got Dalton Schultz at tight end now, a legit playmaker. He's only 26. And you're adding a wide receiver threat in a Jackson Smith-Njigba to get Bryce Young some help, because at Alabama this past year, he did not have any help. So we're getting Jackson Smith-Njigba out of Ohio State. In my opinion, the best wide receiver in the draft class. It's never been, a question. Yeah, he had that hamstring injury. He didn't play much at all last season. I'm not worried about it. Like, I think he's going to bounce back just fine. The guy, the definition of Jackson Smith-Njigba is separation. He just gets it so easily. And I think that's a great fit for a young quarterback with Bryce Young. Like I said, I think it's just a good weapon for him. And then the Jets. Now this pick is weird, because this might be the Packers if they do have to trade for Aaron Rodgers. They might have to give this pick up. Shout out to Ghost, by the way, keep me going throughout the day. Not a sponsor, but maybe one day. Love Ghost energy drinks. Don't feel like crap. They have really good flavor, so check them out. You might use them already, especially if you're in the South, like Texas. They're huge. So this might be the Packers in like a few days. I don't know. Even if it is, like, I still feel good about this pick. I feel like they need this as well. But for the Jets, man, if you do get Aaron Rodgers, which it looks like they will, they're just trying to figure everything out. The Jets still need help on that offensive line. Mekhi Becton has a lot of questions. He looks really good. Put a picture out the other day where he's like working out, like he looks like he's in shape now. But for me, I'm still taking the best tackle remaining on the board. This is a guy, once again, you can switch these top three tackles any way you want. And I'd be like, okay, you're right, because there's really no wrong answer here. But me, Broderick Jones is a guy who, when you watch the tape, you're like, yo, that's a future all-pro left tackle in the league. The dude dominated at Georgia. He has a few things he can work on in his pass protection, his pass reps. But outside of that, the guy's flawless. I love Broderick Jones. This is a guy that, once again, every time I see his pick come up, like it's a no-brainer to me, I always go back to Broderick Jones. And now we're here at 14 with the Patriots. And you might be looking at the board and you're saying a corner has not been taken yet. What the heck? But this is where I have the first corner coming off the board, and it's my corner one. Sadly, just a few picks before my team, who I really want to get this player, but it's whatever, because I really like to pick that. I'm a do for Washington anyways. But Christian Gonzalez, the best overall corner in the entire draft, whether it's man, whether it's zone, whether he's playing press, off, bail, soft press, I don't care. The dude, he's so, like, I love watching his tapes. I love watching his hips, which might sound weird, but the guy's transition, his recovery is so flawless. Like he's on skates out there. Like there's no awkwardness in his movement. He is so smooth in everything he does. And I think he's going to ball out at the Patriots, which is a really bad team, by the way. God, I hate watching the Patriots play. It just seems like they're built poorly. Mac Jones doesn't look good. It's just a really bad team. So sorry, Christian Gonzalez, but you're going to the Patriots. And the Packers might have 2 picks in the top 15. They might have 13 and 15, but for right now they just have 15. And for me, they lose Tonyan and they need a tight end. And they need weapons. If Jordan Love is your quarterback next year, you need weapons. They also need help on the offensive line. So why don't I get the best inline tight end? That's also the best blocking tight end in the draft, and help out your offensive line, and then also give you a legit threat, a guy who I think he's been NFL ready for the last 2 years now. And that is tight end Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. I think this is a really good fit. Like for me, this guy, there's a couple of like really sure guys in this draft for me. And he's one of them. Like he's the one that I would put money on that he's going to have a long career in the NFL. He's going to be a Pro Bowler. He's going to be an all-pro caliber tight end. Like he's one of the next greats. And this is a really good tight end class. So Packer fans, yes, you've got some young wide receivers. You just lost some more. You're probably going to be getting some wide receivers here in the draft, but then also get a guy like Michael Mayer who's going to help you out blocking wise, help out your run game, protect your quarterback when he needs to, but then also help out your quarterback in the receiving game. Just solid hands. Like the dude doesn't drop anything. And then, of course, my Washington Commanders are on the board here. And the funny thing about this one, there's so many people that have been pointing out Bijan Robinson, Texas. It's been like a long-term debate in the Washington community. I'm not going to do it, by the way. And the Eagles just signed safety Justin Evans, by the way. Okay. And then Sean Murphy-Bunting signed to the Titans 1-year deals. Nothing too crazy. And then the Raiders might be getting another tight end with Austin Hooper after just getting Irv Smith. But anyways, just kind of try to catch up, make sure I don't have to change anything on the rip here. But for me, I'm not going Bijan Robinson. I know I put out a mock draft thing and everyone blew up. And I see a lot of people doing Joey Porter Jr. too. I just want to talk about that real quick. I don't think the fit here is good for Joey Porter Jr., a guy that studied Joey Porter Jr., obviously a Penn State guy. I think he's going to thrive and be a really good corner in the right system. But I just don't think it's our system. I think for me, I'm going Devin Witherspoon because he fills that nickel role. He can also play outside. But the dude's just a dog. High motor, just every single play he is giving his all. He can fill in so many holes. We got rid of Bob McCain. Maybe he can slide in that spot. Like I said, he can play in the nickel. He can play outside if we need him to. He can play in a lot of places. St. Juice has these injuries. Maybe he just starts in the slot and he can rotate outside whenever we only use two corners, whatever. Regardless, I'm taking Devin Witherspoon. Joey Porter Jr., we just don't run as much man as we used to. We're such a zone heavy defense now. I think that's Joey Porter's weakness. Like when he gives up that space to wide receivers, like he just gets kind of sloppy. Like when he can put hands on you though, like you're done. when Joey Porter Jr. puts hands on you at the line, he presses you, you're done. Just chill where you are and wait for the play to be over because you're not going to get anything on him. But for me, fit wise and scheme wise, Devin Witherspoon, I'm so excited for this pick. Like if you have been following me and like my shows, like I was doing CFB Unfiltered, I was so high on Devin Witherspoon all season, just like watching his tapes preseason. Phil Steele, his magazine, it's like my Bible. I read that like over the summer, and he was just like talking so high about this guy. And I was like, let me check on this dude. And then the first few games he was balling out. I'm like, yo, I love this guy's game. And now he's finally, been catching on lately in the draft cycle, and people are super high on him. Obviously the Steelers are here at 17. You just think Joey Porter Jr. because of his dad played there, but they also have a legit need at corner. They get Patrick Peterson. So you put Joey Porter Jr. to learn from one of the best in the last like 10 years. Patrick Peterson, are you kidding me? Like sign me up. Joey Porter Jr. on one side, Patrick Peterson on the other. My other guy, Levi Wallace, former walk-on Alabama, balled out. Maybe you move him inside, but regardless, you can upgrade with Joey Porter Jr. on the other side. So congrats, Steelers. I mean, they just belong together. Like Joey Porter Jr. and Joey Porter and the Steelers, like it doesn't make sense. You've got to do that. Here at 18, this is where it gets really juicy with the Lions once again. Like they're the head-scratching mystery team in the entire first round that really just makes you think. And for me, I keep going back and forth on this. Like I could see them taking like Trenton Simpson at linebacker, like which would like be so shocking because you're taking a linebacker at 18. But for me, I look at Jameson Williams. They need to use him more. Obviously, they have Amon-Ra St. Brown, but then they have Josh Reynolds. They need some more help at wide receiver. They need to be more explosive. I think they need a big body receiver like a Quentin Johnston. So my number 2 wide receiver in the draft at 18 for the Lions, who have already picked and got Myles Murphy, by the way, to help out the line. I think that's a really good first round for the Lions, getting Quentin Johnston, who I think needs a little bit more respect. I get it. Like as a team that drafted a big TCU wide receiver that ended up being a giant bust, I get it. Sometimes you're just a little afraid of these big guys, but I think his game translates well. I think he catches with his body a little too much. That's like the only thing I don't like with Quentin Johnston is I think that can be a problem. I think he can lead to some drops in the NFL, but take a chance. Like you see the tape, you see the body of work, and he's done great against some really good defenses. All right, number 19, the Bucs, another weird one. But they really need help on the line, especially if their quarterback's going to be Baker Mayfield. Opposite of Tristan Wirfs, they need their left tackle. And for me, it's a local guy. I'm from Virginia. He grew up in DC, and he's super young, but he has a lot of upside. And once again, I think he can learn a lot from Tristan Wirfs, who's going to be one of the highest paid tackles in the league. And that's Anton Harrison. A lot of upside, but the tape is so good. This is a guy that isn't getting talked about enough. In a really good upper tier of offensive linemen. I think there's a big drop off. Like when you start looking at maybe Darnell Wright is the cutoff for me, and then maybe Matthew Bergeron or Tyler Steen is the next one. Maybe Wanya Morris. But for me, Anton Harrison is really good. This is a guy that I wouldn't be mad though if we got him at 16. People are oh, that might be too high. I don't think so. He's just, to me, he's that good. His tape is really good. Big, strong dude. He has really good trap maneuvers. He's just a solid guy. I think he's going to grow and be even better. Give him another year or two, and he's going to be a long-term left tackle for you. And then they can leave Tristan Wirfs on that right side where he's comfortable and get the most out of those two tackles. I think that's a really good duo. And like I said, if Baker Mayfield's your quarterback, he would absolutely love that. And the Seahawks. This one's tough because I got them getting Tyree Wilson. So they got some defensive line help. I think they really need some help on the offensive line. Just looking at what they really have coming back on this offensive line. You paid Geno. get them, build up that line. Obviously, they have Charles Cross, who's going to be good. Abraham Lucas on the other side. But then you got Damian Lewis, Phil Haynes, Evan Brown at center, got him from Detroit. Like for me, Phil Haynes, like I'm upgrading that right guard spot because I have a really good guy in mind who has been projected top 20 in a lot of mock drafts that I've been looking at. And that is a dude that I had a really good time talking to at the Senior Bowl, really enjoyed. He said he can play left guard or right guard. And that is O'Cyrus Torrence out of Florida, 6'5", 335, just a giant dude. Like I was so surprised when I saw him in person. I was like, holy smokes. Same with DeJuan Jones. I could not believe it. But for me, I'm protecting Geno and building that line. I'm getting O'Cyrus Torrence out of Florida at that right guard spot. They might go wide receiver. Maybe another corner, but I don't know. I've done like 3 different people for them. But for me, I'm going O'Cyrus Torrence easily. And the Chargers. Oh, this is a tough one too. Because a lot of people want to do Bijan Robinson or Bijan, whatever his name is. Bijan, whatever. I say Bijan. To the Chargers, if they trade Austin Eckler, I could see it. Hasn't happened yet. So for me, let's see who I mocked. Oh, yeah, they need corner help. So I looked at their corner room, which is really weird because I remember they paid like J.C. Jackson a lot, but on the depth chart, he's listed as a backup to Michael Davis on the right side. And, of course, they've got Derwin James at safety, Asante Samuel Jr. on the other side, Jasir Taylor at nickel. So kind of concerning Owen in their nickel spot, but then also the right side. Maybe J.C. Jackson will I don't know. I guess he just had a bad year last year. But for me, they need some corner help, especially like I said, you've got the Chiefs, you've got the Broncos, you've got the Raiders. You need some really good defense. And a guy that's been, just skyrocketed this draft season. I've been wanting to go Cam Smith, but I think Deonte Banks is higher than all 3 of these guys. I think Kelee Ringo still has a lot of work, still super raw. I like Clark Phillips. He's super small though. Cam Smith, I think he's a really good man quarterback. I think he's definitely a guy that could go right here. But from what I've seen and heard, Deonte Banks is going in the first round, no doubt. So that's why I'm going Deonte Banks to the Chargers. And then that puts the Ravens on the board who they need a lot of help, to be honest with you. Especially at corner. This is where I've been doing Cam Smith, press corner guy, opposite of Marlon Humphrey, another one of my dudes. They need some offensive line help. They need some wide receivers. I didn't even check this, honestly. I've just been doing it so much. I kind of know everybody's need. So, yeah, wide receiver, corner, guard, tackle, D-tackle. Man. I'm just sticking with what I got. They're sticking with my gut. I think Cam Smith goes to the Ravens because they definitely need some corner help. It's been rough. And then Kyle Hamilton's really coming on at that little safety spot. They're going to be bringing him up. So I think they're going to be building a little squad on defense, but obviously you got the Lamar situation. You need some wide receivers. You need to build up that offensive line a little bit as well. And then, man, Minnesota, they lose Adam Thielen and they need help. They got KJ Osborne in the slot. But who's on the outside? Is it Jalen? I think it is Jalen. Out of Michigan State. Jalen Nailor. Yep, Jalen Nailor. Who, I think he's really good, but he's not a wide receiver too by any means. So for me, I've been going next best wide receiver. I think they really need corner too. But for me, I think Cam Smith and Deonte Banks were both the best fits for Minnesota. I really like Andrew Booth Jr., but he's just been so banged up. I think they can wait to get one of these later guys here, maybe a Julius Brents, maybe a Tyreek Stevenson, maybe in a little bit later. They don't pick till 87, but still, for me, I don't like the Kelee Ringo fit. I don't like the Forbes fit, Clark Phillips. I just don't like it for the Vikings. So I've been going wide receiver here with Jordan Addison, who can play the slot, but I think he can play outside too. Another really good separation guy. But you can't just have Justin Jefferson, and then KJ Osborne. I like KJ Osborne. I think he's, has some really good games. The guy I studied for the Scouting Academy. And I think he's a really solid wide receiver. But still, you need some help. Jordan Addison, another small guy. This is a really small wide receiver class. Jalen Hyatt really isn't, but Jalen Hyatt, he's right at 6 foot. But Jordan Addison, 6 foot, 175. I'm going him. Another really good separation guy, like I said. In Jacksonville, man, for me, they didn't really make any moves this offseason, but they've just been, they spent so much money last year. But then I look at their corner spot, and for me, there's one guy that really stands out that I think fits really well. So obviously, they have Trey Hunter in the nickel, Darius Williams on the right side. So, you got Tyson Campbell, and then you got Andre Cisco at safety. So you need like another corner. And there's one guy I think fits really well. And he can play inside or outside because of his size. But I just think he fits. He's really feisty. He kind of fits what they're looking for at that corner spot. And for me, that's Clark Phillips. Kind of want to go Brian Branch here too, but I'm going Clark Phillips. I just think personally it's a really good fit for them. After seeing their defense last year, I think this is the kind of guy they want. Really good ball hawk skills, can get some turnovers. And then the good old rival Giants. They have some needs, but their biggest is the offensive line. We took Gates away from them. They just lost Feliciano like an hour ago. So their 2 centers that played last year are gone. They need that whole interior offensive line's bad, like rough right now. And like I already had this pick, and then I saw that happen. I'm like, yeah. So I feel really good about this now. And it's the best center in the whole class. That's John Michael Schmitz. He's been the best center. Like Lindstrom from Iowa, good. Like he has been really good. At the Senior Bowl, he dominated everybody. I didn't see him lose a single rep. Like it doesn't matter who it was, D tackle, edge, whatever. John Michael Schmitz was ridiculous. I think he's well above any other center in this class. And he can play guard if you need him to. But like I said, they just lost both centers from last year. So they definitely need to get a John Michael Schmitz, which sucks because I really like him a lot. And this is where in Dallas, Jerry, he's going to do the flashy pick. He's going to get Bijan Robinson. He played at Texas. He's technically the best player on the board. Zeke is gone. Pollard got the tag. He's coming off an injury. Like the writing's on the wall. And yeah, it is really hard seeing, Robinson go here at 26. A lot of people think he goes before then. I just don't see it if it's not the Eagles and it's not the Chargers. Maybe the Chargers do. Like I said, if they trade Austin Eckler, maybe the Chargers do get him, which would be ridiculous because I would just automatically think about LT. And I think that'd be a really good fit. Like I would love to see Bijan at the Chargers. But for me, I think he goes to the Cowboys. It just makes too much sense. A Texas boy staying in Texas. Once again, I hate mocking these really good guys to my division rivals. But man, Bijan, 26 to the Cowboys, 27. The Buffalo Bills are on the clock. And this is where I'm selecting one of my favorite prospects in the whole draft. I said back in December, this guy is going to sneak into the first round and it could be in the top 20 come April. And he absolutely is, in my opinion. A lot of people agree. And that's Darnell Wright out of Tennessee, right tackle. Had the best tape of anyone I watched the entire offseason was Darnell Wright versus my Alabama Crimson Tide. Just shut it down. Like Hooker had all the time in the world to throw because Darnell Wright was just holding it down on that right side. Phenomenal right tackle. The Bills need help so bad. Who's their right tackle? Is it Spencer? I think it is Spencer, which he's just not that good. I'm like 90% sure. Right tackle. Yeah, Spencer Brown. So they need a legit right tackle. It's either going to be Dwan Jones or Darnell Wright. And for me, the better prospect is Darnell Wright. I think he's ready to go. And they get a home run at 27. Darnell Wright, Tennessee just makes so much sense to me. The Bengals, man, talk about a team that has some holes to fill at corner and at tight end. Like, bad, really bad. I think all the good corners, I could see Brian Branch, maybe Keely Ringo, but the pick that intrigues me the most is Darnell Washington, tight end out of Georgia. Once again, helps out your offensive line. He's a really good blocker, but he's such a weapon as a tight end, just a freak athlete. Man, I mean, that's not fair. Him, Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. Like, are you kidding me? I would love to see this, and I think it is a giant need for them. And he's a first-round talent at 28. Like, he could go to the Packers instead of Michael Mayer at 15. I'd be like, okay. Like, I would not be mad. Like, that's not overdrafting at all. So at 28, I got Darnell Washington, tight end out of Georgia. Big-time playmaker. Whew. And this is a tough one, too. 29 Saints. I've been doing D tackle. So you could do Brian Bresee. You could do Trevon Dexter. I think Elijah Cansey's better than all of them. I think he would fit there really well. But in my opinion, like, I just don't know about the Alvin Kamara situation. Like, I'm not hearing anything about it, but I think he's done. Like, I don't see him coming back. So why don't you just get his exact clone with the Jahmyr Gibbs? Like, you've got Chris Olave, Michael Thomas is coming back. They need another wide receiver. They need some help. They got some solid tight end depth. But then you got Derek Carr. Like, I mean, I know you just got Jamal Williams, but you need another running back if Alvin Kamara is done. Like, you remember what they did last year and like who they were running out there? It's kind of scary. But for me, like I said, you got Jamal Williams, Benjamin, like, congrats. If Alvin Kamara is done, like, get Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, it just makes too much sense. The dude, like, is a playmaker. Yeah, he's not as good as Robinson, but he's right there. Like, he's a special running back, huge receiving threat, great in the pass pro. But I mean, he's a top like 15, top 20 talent wise in this draft, in my opinion. And it's to be a home run pick. I love that fit for them because I literally do just see Alvin Kamara when I see him play. Not just because they both played at Alabama and potentially both going to be on the Saints, but for me, it just makes too much sense. If they do lose Alvin Kamara, like, they have to get Gibbs. So that's the way I'm going with it. I'm going Gibbs, running back, Alabama. And then the Eagles are back on the clock. This is where it gets really unfair because I love Brian Branch so much, and a lot of people have him going there at 10 because he's just that good. But the way that everything just fell for me, it was so frustrating to see him available at 30 to where they can get Jalen Carter at 10 and then come back and get Gardner Johnson's replacement and Brian Branch, who is going to be a star. No pun intended, because he played the star position at Alabama. He's going to be a legit star. So for me, it's a no-brainer. Brian Branch on that team is so frustrating that they're going to be able to have Bradbury back, Slay back, and then Brian Branch. You rented Gardner Johnson for a year. You shipped him out over to Detroit now. And now Brian Branch is on Philly. And great fit, by the way. Kansas City. They are either going right tackle or they're going edge to help out Karlaftis, who had a really good season, by the way. That's a guy who was super slept on throughout the draft process last year. Kind of like Miles Murphy this year. Like, people are like, I don't know. Like, no, he's just good. Like trust the tape. Just because he didn't get a lot of the combine hype, whatever. Like, just he slipped up. But he was like a top 10, top 15 guy for a long time, was George Karlaftis. And he looked really good last year. So maybe they get some edge help. If they do, I could really see Felix DK Uzoma out of Kansas State. Isaiah Foskey, maybe. BJ Ojulari, maybe. Nolan Smith, who's had a freak combine, who's someone that could easily be taken like the top 10, kind of like Trayvon Walker did. But for me, I'm going right tackle. My Washington Commanders got Andrew Wiley from them. They lost Orlando Brown, got Juwan on the left side. So I think they go right side. And I'm looking at the freak athlete, DeJuan Jones, longest wingspan ever recorded at the Senior Bowl. Just a big dude, 6'8", 359. I mean, he just mauls people over after that first day. His agent was like, shh, get off the field. We're done practicing. You're getting some first round talks. Teams really like you in the late first. So we're done here. And I think he does go late first. I think he gets that 31 spot with the Kansas City Chiefs, the last pick of the first round. And they rebuild that offensive line to help out Pat Mahomes. So just a quick recap. We got the Panthers getting CJ Stroud, the Texans getting Bryce Young, Cardinals getting Will Anderson, the Colts get their quarterback of the future with Anthony Richardson, the Seahawks get some line help with Tyree Wilson, the Lions get the very slept on Myles Murphy, but he fits Coach Campbell's mold really well. Will Levis gets to be the backup to Jimmy G for the Raiders next year. Lucas Van Ness heads to the ATL. Paris Johnson Jr. heading to the Bears to to protect his quarterback, his former teammate, Justin Fields. Jalen Carter finally comes off the board at 10 to the Philadelphia Eagles, who just have all these great players falling to them in my mock draft, of course. Peter Skoronski builds up that offensive line, which is atrocious right now for the Titans, and so is their wide receiver room, by the way. So I would not be mad if they took Jackson Smith-Njigba or someone else here at wide receiver. But I do have Jackson Smith-Njigba going to the Texans to fill that void of Brandon Cooks and to help out your young Bryce Young at quarterback. So Broderick Jones possibly might be the Packers pick here at 13, but Broderick Jones, that tackle of the future for whoever's going to be the quarterback next season, and hopefully it is Aaron Rodgers. In 14, Christian Gonzalez locking it down for the Patriots on the outside, the number one corner in the class for me. Michael Mayer, the best tight end prospect, and he has been for years now, so stop overthinking it. He's been the most ready for a long time. I have him going to the Packers to help out Jordan Love, who sounds like he's going to be the starting quarterback next year. And then my Commanders take Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois as that guy who can play inside or outside, just a physical, hard-nosed corner that I would just love to have here in Washington. I think he'd fit so well. Joey Porter Jr. just goes where he belongs to the Steelers. You have that family legacy there. It just makes so much sense. I want to see it happen. So make it happen, Pittsburgh. Quentin Johnson, the Lions get some help at wide receiver. You got Jameson Williams, who's going to be that deep speed threat. And then you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, kind of the smaller guy, but he's so good. Then you need that big body receiver that can really help you out. I think Quentin Johnson is going to be a huge pick for him. I've got Anton Harrison, super young, high upside left tackle who's going to really thrive with Tristan Wirfs there. They've got some concerns on that, but they were huge bringing back some of their guys, especially Dean in the secondary. I feel really good about what they did, losing Tom Brady. Like I said, you're going to Baker Mayfield. You need to build that line. So Anton Harrison, left tackle. The Seahawks to get the first big-time guard off the board, Osiris Torrance. He can play left. He can play right. The Chargers build up their secondary with Deonte Banks, who's been one of the more impressive corners in this whole draft cycle. Just showed out at the combine. I mean, the tape was there. It's just Maryland was not good with him and Bennett both in that secondary. It was really good. It's just that team as a whole was really bad, but I think he's going to be a really good pro prospect. Super excited for Banks. Cam Smith fits that Ravens defense so much. You have Marlon Humphrey on the other side. You need another young corner opposite of him that can just solidify that secondary because you need some help in a lot of areas, but I think that's the best pick at 22. Jordan Addison's going to try to come in and fill Adam Thielen's void as that wide receiver too to help out because Justin Jefferson's going to be getting double teamed, maybe triple teamed like they used to do on Calvin Johnson if they don't get some wide receiver help in Baltimore. So I have them, at Minnesota at 23. I got Jordan Addison, former Blitnikoff Award winner. Clark Phillips III. I think this guy's getting slept on too because of his size. But you want to talk about a feisty guy, like I said, ball hawk. He fights when the ball is in the air. I think he's going to be a really good fit for that Jaguars team in that secondary. Then John Michael Schmitz lands with the Giants to protect Daniel Jones and create some lanes for Saquon. I mean, their interior is hurting bad right now at center and guard. So I think this is a guy that can fill in both, but more importantly, a long-term center for them. And then finally, Bijan Robinson's off the board. He goes to Texas. It makes too much sense. The Texas boy staying there. Jerry wants the flashy pick. He wants to help this offense as much as possible. They got rid of Zeke. Like I said, Pollard's on the tag, and he is coming back from an injury. Just makes too much sense for me if he lasts that long. Like I said, there's two teams that can go after him before that, the Eagles and the Chargers. If the Chargers trade Eckler, maybe they fix that relationship, whatever. Darnell Wright, my favorite right tackle in the whole draft, lands in Buffalo to protect Josh Allen, and they need it bad on that line. They got to get him some more time so he doesn't get hurt again. Darnell Washington, tight end out of Georgia, a big-time threat, but also a phenomenal blocker in Cincinnati, as if they didn't have enough weapons already. Their two biggest needs, in my opinion, are the tight end spot and the corner spot. I didn't like the corners on the board. It's a really deep corner draft. Let it come to you in the next few rounds. But right now, Darnell Washington's the difference maker. And then Jahmyr Gibbs goes to the Saints, takes over for Alvin Kamara, who I think is done. And he's a mirror image of Alvin Kamara, who's going to have just as much success, in my opinion, score you just as much fantasy points. And then you've got Jamal Williams over there, who's scored a ton of touchdowns in the goal line situations last year. And for me, Gibbs is that home run back that they need on that offense. And then somehow Brian Branch, who is easily a top 15 talent in this draft, falls to 30 to the Eagles, just how the board fell, and fills in that hole for Gardner Johnson. And he, like I said, he can play that nickel role. He can play that big backer, but that having Bradbury and Slade next to him, I mean, it's unfair. The Eagles, once again, they've just been drafting so well and just building that team for long-term success. And they can pay Jalen Hurts still, which is crazy. And then DeJuan Jones, right tackle out of Ohio State, takes over for Wiley, who went to Washington. And Pat Mahomes has another big guy on the other side to help protect him. You do have two new tackles coming in, so that's kind of concerning if you're Pat Mahomes on that offense. But nonetheless, I really like this mock draft. Let me know what y'all think. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter. Like I said, let me know what you think. I might do a second round continuing off of this one here. So let me know if you want me to do round 2 in the next few days or maybe next week or so. But we are just at about a little over a month until the NFL draft. So super excited for the rest of the draft content here on the channel. I'll see y'all next time on the draft board.